Candidates were staging this debate on the same day that former House Finance Chairman Allison was admitted to a federal prison in Massachusetts for corruption. Just the latest in a string of lawmakers who we've seen step afoul of the law in the last 10 years and even before that. So I'm wondering, what specifically would you advocate to reduce corruption in Rhode Island? Mr. Smith, I'd like to start with you, and since you're the only Republican among the candidates, I think you might advocate electing more Republicans. Please offer some other prescriptions besides that.
I think there's only 2 of us in the whole state. I'm not sure.
No, I meant the 3rd.
Oh. Basically, I said it a little earlier about appointing an auditor general. I mean, we've had these continual situations where there's misuse of funds, where there's misuse of campaign finance money, which is just occurring right now in the state. This situation with Mr. Allison, we're going to have our own. Rhode Island's going to have its own wing in the federal prison, where just the Rhode Island wing, where we put up all our Rhode Island politicians, and it's sad, but it's a reason why we need checks and balances. We were one of the founding states for checks and balances in government, and we need checks and balances. That's basically what citizens, what average taxpayers are crying for.
Mr. Smith, if I could, I believe you said Auditor General. The state has an Auditor General right now. Do you mean an Inspector General?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Allen.
Yes, thank you. I find a lot of things very funny, but I don't find this very funny at all. I think that it is imperative that we elect good, honest, trustworthy people. There are 7 of us here that are replacing a woman who was probably the most honest and trustworthy person that I knew in the State House, and I intend to carry on her legacy in leading in the exact same way, and if that means supporting further government oversight and transparency, I intend to do so.
Ms. Sawyer.
I actually said at a previous forum that we need to move beyond our unofficial state motto of "you gotta know a guy," and I think one of the biggest problems, so I believe that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. I think there's a reason that's a saying, and a huge problem in this state is because people don't know where to start, or people don't know how to interact with government services, because oftentimes the processes aren't clear and they're not transparent and they're not easy to follow, and that just leaves the door wide open. I also would definitely be supportive of regular audits of all the campaign finance reports. I think that's very important.
Mr. Florence.
Absolutely. First of all, we need to really stiffen up all the penalties. I mean, our state has taken a big hit in terms of corruption. Not a month can go by when we don't read about someone dipping into their campaign finance and using it as their own personal piggy bank. It's unacceptable. And how do you keep people from doing this? By scaring them, by imposing strict long prison sentences. We are in a trusted position. The person that you select.
But the Senate doesn't have oversight over the federal prison system. What would you do as a senator to try to reduce corruption?
I would try to get support for legislation that would make penalties extremely stiff for any type of financial misgivings, for any type of corruption. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Hinos.
I think it's quite sad that this just happened. I remember many years ago I was supporting Mr. Gallison's initiative to try to get a head tax or what have you put on colleges and institutions within cities and towns that had a cap. I thought that was a great idea, great initiative, and sadly his private life and some poor decision making has ended him up where he is today. But I think that what you really need to do is you need to look at who's sitting up here, who they are, and why are they doing this, and elect the people that are in your community that you know. Don't be afraid to ask a few questions and things of that nature. I mean, I think we're all up here for the same reasons. And again, the Senate President Teresa Paiva Weed was just that, one of the most honest and hardworking individuals that I think I've met in the state around, and I'm more than glad to be running for this position. And certainly, sometimes we have to mind ourselves as well. It's kind of hard to put these big mandates and oversights on folks, but it needs to be the person themselves too.
Ms. Ripley.
Thank you. Ironically, I'm attending Roger Williams School of Law, and my class of the two that I have is actually public corruption. So I've been studying bribery, gratuities, and honest services laws that are regulated by the Fed. And what I think that in my experience that happens in Rhode Island, it's not just a Rhode Island phenomenon. If you look in the news, the governor of the state of Alabama, their attorney general, who was so corrupt, couldn't litigate against the, so we're not unique. I think the only thing that's unique about Rhode Island is that a lot of the individuals are one step away and they went to school with somebody. There's a closeness, there's a familiarity, and I think that those things.
What do you do about that?
I think one of the things we should do is I think we need to toughen the ethics laws. I mean, if the General Assembly can just summarily eliminate the ethics so that they're not held accountable, I think that is wrong. There is way too much input and in what they do, and a lot of times some of the laws that they pass benefit them or their particular industry outside of government. So I think an Inspector General who is outside of and maybe works more closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office to have these things investigated would be a possibility.